So a massive semi-final in the Olympics is just around the corner. Fiji taking on Australia in what promises to be a fast-paced, hard-hitting game of rugby sevens. And in this preview, we will be looking through at the previous fixtures for the two sides throughout the Olympic Games, their key players to watch out for, alongside a couple of stats about their previous head-to-heads, and then a prediction at the end of who we think will win this match. But we will start with Fiji. They were a part of Pool C alongside Uruguay, USA, and also the host France, who will be taking part in the other semi-final. They are taking on the South Africans. But for Fiji, their opening game, it was a strong one, winning up against Uruguay 40 points to 12. They didn't do a whole lot wrong throughout that game, Fiji, and they started off their campaign on a bit of a high. Then their next game, up against the USA, they were just as clinical, 38 points to 12 in that one, and then they found themselves up against France, winning at 19 points to 12. So they were 3 from 3 throughout their group stage, a massive start to the Olympics. For the Fijians, then though, they ended up in the quarterfinal, and they were taking on the Irish, a side that have been valiantly fighting throughout this sevens competition so far. Fiji, they needed to dig deep because they were down by 2 tries early on in this fixture. There were moments throughout that game where it seemed like the medal at the Olympics was slipping through the Fijian fingers. But then they got their last try. Waisia Nathungu being able to score it, winning the game 19 points to 15. A valiant effort from Ireland, but they just couldn't stop the flying Fijians. So now we move on to what has happened for the Australians throughout their group stage fixtures. They are actually very similar to the Fijians. They are undefeated. They are undefeated up till this stage of the comp. So one of these two undefeated sides will head into the final as an undefeated team. The other, unfortunately, they will be playing off for the bronze medal. But for Australia, in their group stage, 21 points to 14 to win over the Samoans for their first match. Their second up against the Kenyans, winning at 21 points to 7, and then managing to beat Argentina 22 points to 14 to close out their group stage fixtures. In the quarterfinal, they were up against the USA, and it just seemed like the USA sadly didn't show up for this game. 18 points to 0. It was relatively close going into the last couple minutes, but then Australia really started putting on the afterburners and getting themselves a good win and margin. But these two sides, when they go head-to-head in the past, it has been extremely entertaining. And this one's going to be no different. When looking through at the Sevens circuit for the 2023-24 season, we have seen Fiji face the Australians 3 times. And of those 3 times, surprisingly, Fiji have not won a single one of those games. Australia are 3-0 from the most recent times, taking on the Fijians. The first game up against the Fijians last year for the Australians, 24 points to 7. Their next contest after that, 22 points to 7. That took place in January this year. And then the most recent time that they have played up against the Fijians, it was in April, and they won 12-0 for the Aussies. So of the last 3 times that Fiji have played Australia, they have only scored 2 tries from those 3 performances, whereas Australia have brought up well over 50 points up against the Fijians. But this is the Olympics. We've got to remember that. Fiji, they're the defending gold medal champions. Australia, they have never won an Olympic medal in the sevens. So this is a massive chance to either cause a big upset or for Fiji to continue their road to their throne and take on the winner of South Africa versus France. In terms of key players, there have only been 2 men who have scored up against the Australians for Fiji, one of which was Josefa Talatholo. He is, of course, going to be playing in this contest, and the other who was able to score up against Australia was Tareo Tamani. So he will more than likely be making his way off the bench in this semi-final. That is to make way for Jerry Tuwai, who has been starting for the Fijians. But overall, if we had to look at one more key player, I would say Kiminelli Rasaku. He has been really strong throughout this Olympics competition. He's had a huge amount of try assists. He's had a few tries for himself as well. And when you've got a backline involving Celestino Ravatamanda and Osifo Masi, a bit of Fijian raw flair, as well as Masi, of course, getting that Olympic gold medal in the Tokyo Olympics, that type of experience, as well as size and speed, can bode very well for the Fijians. And this match for Australia, in the past when it's come to scoring tries up against Fiji, it's been the big men who get over the line the most, whether that is Nathan Lawson or Nick Maloof, just to name a couple. We've also seen a few tries come in for Jimmy the Jet Turner up against the Fijians. So it's the pace and power of Aussie that has also got them some success. But in this game, I think Nathan Lawson is definitely one to look straight at as a key throughout this contest. Henry Hutchinson, him in the breakdown, might be the difference maker between these two sides. Fiji are normally known for getting those turnovers and managing to get that counter-attack going after getting the ball back in a breakdown. But throughout this Olympics competition, they haven't really been able to do that. Now, I do want to say, of all the sides, I think that Fiji have been the unluckiest when it comes to how strict the referees have been when they have got into the breakdowns. There have been countless times that a few other sides have gone and done the exact same thing and not been penalised. But it seems to be every breakdown at the moment, the Fijians are under the microscope of the referee's whistle, and they have to make sure they are doing it perfectly if they are going to look to rip that ball away, or else they could end up getting penalised. And an ill-disciplined Fiji side is just not quite on that same level as what we saw up against the USA when those offloads were flowing, when the Fijians were breaking the line and getting themselves plenty of tries too. But for Australia, they've got a good record up against Fiji, like I mentioned. One of the main reasons for that is that power down the wing of Nathan Lawson and Nick Maloof. But also, if I had to pick one more key player, I would want to go with Jimmy Turner, of course. But I do think whoever is kicking in this game, which more than likely will be Maurice Longbottom, he is going to be the one that has to have perfection in this game. The last thing that you want to be doing up against Fiji is missing out on those extra 2 points, because if you miss those 2 points, those are normally two that if Fiji get themselves the try, they add those 2 more, and a scoreline like 14-12 or something along those lines could be on the cards for the Australians. But now we are up to the stage of a prediction, ladies and gentlemen. This game, it's going to be an epic one. I think it's going to be a little bit lower scoring than some anticipate. If we had to look through at the past 3 games between these two sides, I would say that the 12-0 is the more likely in terms of how many points are scored. I feel like both sides will want to be extremely clinical in their defense, but at the same time, that can sometimes lead to even more points being scored. So I think we're either in for a 7-5 win for the Fijians, or I think that it is going to be a lot higher scoring, and I'll say that if that is the case, 26-21 in favour of Fiji. So I am backing Fiji no matter what in this game. Even though they've lost their last 3 games up against the Australians, they still pack quite the punch, and they are currently in some sensational form. They want to continue it, and they want that gold medal. But this game, it is going to be kicking off at 2 a.m. New Zealand time. We are doing the live commentary on the channel, so if you are new, be sure to hit that subscribe button, but also do let me know your score predictions in the comments down below for this matchup. If you did enjoy, be sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel, and I will see you all for the next one.